Talking to Councilor Jay Robinson about the issues of her city and the ward. I guess we'll get started with a pretty simple question. This has been your first term in office. What expectations did you have coming into it that were completely different from the reality?
Well, I guess I thought we were going to be doing a lot more city building in this term, and we have done some, but because of the administration and the kind of the difficult term we've experienced, we haven't done as much as I had hoped. So we've done our best given the circumstances of this particular term.
What in terms of city building would you have liked to have seen from this term that didn't happen?
I think just more initiatives to build the economy, draw tourists to Toronto, make this city a more animated city, support more of the arts and culture initiatives in the city. Like I said, we have made traction, but with the antics of our administration, of our current mayor, there's been a lot of distractions, and as we've moved things forward, we haven't done as much as we can to enhance the city's image and reputation.
You're on the Toronto waterfront revitalization. How would the island airport expansion affect the waterfront?
Well, this is what we don't know, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. Really, to date, we've had very little kind of data, research, information related to that particular proposal. And it's sitting on that board, it's very informative to see how the waterfront is rolling out. And so we want to make sure that kind of small boutique airport is retained. Having said that, we have to also explore all the options when it's related to the economy of the city. So we've been asking from the board's perspective, of more information. I moved a motion specifically to ensure that the Toronto Waterfront Board was actively involved in all levels of engagement, whether it was with the Portlands or the city, as we move through this process of reviewing this, making sure that they are key stakeholders in all the discussions.
In revitalizing the waterfront, there's the area of the Portlands. Has there been a lot of improvement in that area in terms of revitalizing it, turning it from this industrial area into something livable?
Well, I guess there's been a lot of planning done. We haven't seen a lot of action yet, but the plans are slowly rolling out. We do see a lot of revitalization along the waterfront with wonderful parks like Corktown Common that just opened recently, as Sugar Beach, Sherbourne Common, which does a great job in kind of cleaning the water system. So we want to continue that work into the Portlands, but it's a very slow-moving process. And again, with this administration, there was a whole initiative to change the plan by one of our councillors, Councilor T.O.Wards, and the mayor. And so I stood up at that time and said, we simply can't put aside 7 years of consultation and planning by experts and look at mega malls and entertain, they were talking about a Ferris wheel and a concept of transit that wasn't appropriate for the space. And so I put my foot down on that and said, listen, we need to make sure we're moving ahead on the plan that's been really, had great public engagement as well as great experts around the table masterminding that plan. So now we're moving forward with a mixed-use plan. We're looking at revitalizing the mouth of the Don, which is very critical to the health of the water systems in Toronto and also to the flood management plans. And things are moving along, but it does seem like it's slow.
In terms of flood management, we had that massive flood that happened last summer. Do you think we'd be able to manage it if that were to happen this summer?
Well, I think we'd be in a better place to do that. We've had a number of reports come forward from staff. Staff seem to be more certainly on high alert related to these types of storms. We also went through the ice storm, as you know, last December. So I think we would manage it more effectively, but I don't think we're exactly where we need to be on that front.
There's a lot of stuff on the waterfront. Do things like the X, does that kind of impede the waterfront development, or does it help the waterfront?
Well, I do think I've always been a proponent of trying to merge the Ontario Place grounds with the Exhibition Place grounds. I've always, for years, been a proponent of that. Now the province has plans for the Ontario Place grounds, and that's moving forward. So hopefully we can continue to find synergies to work together.
Just moving into Toronto Public Library, there's supposed to be 2 libraries open. What kind of challenges will go into stocking these libraries?
Well, we have one of the most revered library systems in the world, and I'm very proud to be the vice chair of the library board. It's really an impressive organization. And as you've just stated, we have 98 libraries, and we're in the throes of, we've just opened one more and another to open. So we will have 100 libraries in our city. And that's really something to be proud of. And the fact that the distribution and the circulation of the books is so, the ratios compared to other cities is so high. So it's a very challenging time because you have to find the capital dollars to do the builds and then of course operate the buildings after they're actually constructed. So trying to find the money and work with efficiencies and looking at how we can streamline things to make sure that we can continue to service the neighborhoods as effectively as we can and make sure the libraries are accessible. So that's what we've been focusing on, and we've been looking at new revenue streams, ways to collaborate with other partners, and finding efficiencies always in the back room, I guess, bureaucracy of the library. And it's a very dynamic library board. I'm very proud to have been part of this really dynamic group. A lot of citizen members, so a lot of public engagement, and they're very active and engaged. And so it's been a great, very exciting time for the library. Right now I'm on the library search committee for our new chief librarian. I'm chairing that committee, and we're looking forward to hiring a very dynamic individual to take the library forward into the future.
What kind of partnerships would be involved in improving our libraries? As you've mentioned, there are future partnerships that come in working with the library.
Well, it's a great question. So one of the things we want to do is, and we're dabbling in this now, but is employment for youth particularly is a big issue right now in Toronto. I think we're around 23% unemployment for youth, which is something near and dear to my heart and to many people. I mean, I'm a mother, so I'm very sensitive to that. And so one of the things I'd like to see happen is more collaboration, and we're working on this, and I put a motion forward related to this, between economic development and kind of the jobs small business group and the libraries, and looking at how we can collaborate to have more of that activity happening in the libraries, because the libraries are really like community hubs. They're out in the neighborhood. It's not like you have to tromp to City Hall to actually try to open a small business or get advice on how you seek employment, but to actually have that housed in the immediate communities would be much more effective and helpful to people. So that's one example, but there's multiple examples of what we can do to continue to collaborate and make the libraries more significant in the communities.
With the recent introduction of self-checkout, has that changed the amount of visitations to the library? How has it changed how the library works?
Well, I'll tell you that I was just recently at the Don Mills Library. We've just renovated that library and reopened it, and we had a lovely community celebration about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And people love the self-checkout. It feels like they feel like they have power over the whole system, and they're part of the system, and people love to check them. It's kind of a fun process because it's all computerized. But I think it's made us more efficient, and it's also made the residents feel like they can just quickly do what they need to do and move on with their next activity. So we had a lot of people kind of celebrating the Don Mills Library. We have the whole new self-checkout system, and people were using it, and I spoke in great detail with the librarians, and they said they're rarely asked to assist. It's so simplistic that people get onto it right away and love it because it's quick and it's fast, it's convenient, and it's kind of empowering that people can make that happen on their own versus working directly with somebody to do it.
What kind of new revenue streams has the library found to generate new revenue?
Well, we've been looking at a number of things. We've been looking at parking. We've been looking at advertising on the little library slips. We also have the Toronto Public Library Foundation, which is a very impressive organization, and they're also looking at bringing in more dollars from donors, from actual individual patrons. And so all of that is happening, but getting the word out that this program is in place is part of our objective, and letting people know that you can donate to the library. Some people, when they pass away, they donate their a significant amount of their life savings to the library because they want to leave that mark and they want to leave the city with that gift. So there's many opportunities to look at revenue streams and how we just do things in-house more effectively. But we're really trying to look at all our options, and working with the Toronto Public Library Foundation has been actually a great collaboration between the two bodies and how we can tackle the money challenges, the fiscal agenda of the library.
Going into your ward, what kind of changes have you seen since you took office?
Well, since I took office, before I took office, there was a lot of development. But since I took office, there's it's really been a feeling of we're under siege. There's incredible intensification pressure happening in my ward. It's full of many desirable neighborhoods where people want to live, work, and play. And so what happens is developers come in and develop. And they're changing basically the streetscape of the communities and the neighborhoods, and that's really not welcomed development. It's not responsible development because it's infill housing that's eating up the green space, taking down trees, and that's very unsettling to people who moved into a neighborhood, particularly for the streetscape, the design, the look, the culture of the neighborhood, and the beautiful green space and the mature trees. So it's very hard when you hear a chainsaw come out and cut down a tree. That's been a big part of the neighborhood because somebody wants to build their lot line to lot line, their lots. The footprint of these buildings are excessive. Coupled with that, Bayview Avenue, which is a major arterial road in Toronto, is under transformation. It has been single-family dwellings. Now townhouses are being proposed, and the residents there are uncomfortable with that. They like the streetscape, they like the look, they like that kind of family feel, and now there's a big change coming with these townhouses. So it's really about intensification and density, and people are uncomfortable with that change.
In terms of working with these developers, are there any ways that you can say to them, no, you can't put this here, or suggest other places for it?
Well, that question is well timed because we are looking at a number of ways to deal with development responsibly. City Council is. Planning, Growth and Management Committee has been. Our former chair has worked very hard on looking at what planning tools we can put in place to ensure this irresponsible development doesn't continue. We have this problem called the OMB, and we've asked to be moved out of the jurisdiction of the OMB. We've asked the province that now 3 times, formally City Council has, and that has not happened. So now we have to put our own tools in place, so we're doing that. We're looking at local appeal boards, which we actually voted on just recently. We're also looking at other systems that we can implement. There's talk around development permit systems. Some residents aren't necessarily comfortable with that. So that's really what we're doing, is looking at what tools can we use as a city to prevent the OMB from basically transforming our neighborhoods in a way that is really unwelcomed to the local residents.
What exactly would replace the OMB if we were to pull away from the jurisdiction of it?
Well, right now we're talking about local appeal boards. Some cities have already implemented this system. Sometimes they're called local appeal panels. And it's that is when you have minor variances and the Committee of Adjustment, you want to appeal the Committee of Adjustment decision, you can go instead to a local appeal board versus the OMB. And that will be reviewed by people that know the city, know the community, know the neighborhood. So it'll be, the city will have some control over who sits on these panels and on these boards, and those people will be making decisions in the best interest of the local neighborhood versus the OMB, which is making decisions in the best interest of the province. So this is a very big, gigantic, actually, leap forward in planning, and we're happy to say that Council has approved it.
Just going into your ward again, what kind of changes do you hope to make to it in the future?
Well, looking into the future of Ward 25, Don Valley West, it's a beautiful ward, and there is a lot of green space. We have the luxury of many parks and many ravine systems and trails, but I want to continue that work because you can't have enough in a city. In an urban setting, the more the better. So I would like to continue to work on enhancing our green space, Adding to our green space, one of my biggest objectives is to connect the Don Mills Trail, so it's interconnected, so you can basically bicycle or walk or stroll all the way from my ward downtown and back. And so unfortunately right now there's gaps in that trail, and that's one of my biggest objectives, is to make sure cyclists and pedestrians can get down to this, the city limits or to the city core or to the various farmers markets or amenities of Toronto, destinations, via this trail. And so that's something that I'm going to be focused on. But just enhancing the parks. My playground equipment is archaic, it's old, and so looking at that infrastructure and seeing how we can find the dollars to fix that up. And so that's really, for the next term, in Ward 25, I want to focus on green spaces and parks.
I think we're good. This has been Councilor Jay Robinson. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.